What's up, guys? Jeremy Conn here with Pickdawgz. It's a Lowdown. Thanks for tuning in, checking it out, whatever. You guys can click the like button, please, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification button because that's going to tell you every single time we go live here or have a recorded podcast, whatever. It's been interesting because, starting off, I had my first losing day on Monday so far with Pickdawgz, and it's frustrating, too, because you look at some of the games. I talked about the Orioles that day and Zach Eflin, so hats off to you. You look better than I do because he looked terrible. It was his worst start of the year, and they just got torched. I had the over in the Oakland game on Monday, too, going back to that, where they hit 4 home runs, but it was 3 solos and then a 2-run shot, and that's all the scoring, so that kind of sucked. But I digress. I'll get away from all that stuff and some games here. But I do have a game today that I'm going to give out that I probably would end up selling more times than not. And you got to understand, too, because, I'm finding weather spots, and if there's a game that I think I'm really going to be on, it's going to be behind the paywall. You guys can check out the premium picks. You can see how everybody's been killing it in the WNBA. Baseball's been very good to me as well, and we're going to continue on. My weather plays, again, going back to that Saturday game against the Nats where it's 4-3, first and third, nobody out. They get that guy in, and I'm 5-0 headed into that game on Monday, which I lost. So, again, I record this a little early, so things can change, pitching matchups, all that. One of the things I'd say, too, I was looking at the Oriole game, there's not much with it. They don't have a listed starter either, but it's supposed to be Taj Bradley and I think Trevor Rogers in that game. One of the other things to point out, I've done it twice now where I brought up retractable roofs because I get weather reports with a retractable roof. Texas had crazy winds. There's a couple of games today with some crazy winds. We'll talk about a few of them. And then on top of it, as you look at it, there were, I always talk about with the dome is open. Retractable roofs, you just have to know what they're going to do. If there's rain in the forecast, they're not going to open it up. And I think they need to tell you about, an hour and a half before because they have to have time to actually open up the retractable roof. And as I'd mentioned the other day with Texas, the winds are 18 miles an hour blowing out. Supposed to be 90 degrees there. It's not a typical day that they would open the roof, but you just don't know when teams are going to do it. They typically say between 65 and 80 degrees. They'll keep it open if there's no, showers in the forecast, but just something to keep your eye on. I try to throw out little tidbits here of things that I look at. Once we get into football season, you'll hear things, different stuff. Sometimes I'll throw out player props and different things. And the thing I like about football season is that I can literally take 4 games and kind of break them down and tell you what I'm seeing and do that all throughout the week while talking about the other games. So if you haven't followed me on here, if you haven't listened, you're just tuning in, I handicap everything. Sports Talk radio host in Baltimore, and I love doing this. So hopefully you guys are enjoying these, and I'm going to have them out every single day. So let's just jump into the games today. Let's start off with this is an interesting one because we have the Rockies and the Nats, okay? It's almost 90 degrees. It's very humid there. And then on top of it, and I'm close to this, you'll hear me bring up that I'm in Baltimore. Baltimore and D.C., we're getting pretty much the same weather when that happens. And if this game was in Baltimore, I'm sure I'd be all over the over with the way that things have gone. And if you look at it, I think this is going to be a pretty high total here because Herman Marquez, who can't strike anyone out, he has posted a 6.62 ERA, which is just disgusting, right? And he also has a 1.66 whip, which is even more disgusting, in my opinion. He's going up against Mitchell Parker, and let's be honest, Mitchell Parker's chunky as well. So you get 2 pitchers that can tend to give up the long ball, and it doesn't even have to be the long ball. You can get nickel and dimed, walks, hits, just putting guys on base. And, you get the long ball with a few guys on base. Before you know it, you've hit that over. I would lean over in this game. I would lean over the total. I got to get used to saying lean over because it just sounds like some weird stuff's going on behind me. But, yeah, I like the over here. It feels like this should be a great spot for bats. And when I say feels like in the leans, things change throughout the day. I'm recording this early, so if you're watching and all of a sudden you see something, you can feel free to post. I am going to make a lot of mistakes when I speak, and people have pointed that out a few times, but it's okay. I talk for a living. I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes. Just I don't want to make mistakes on the bets we place. That's where I'll be better. All right, one of the other games, I was going to give this out as a free play, but there's another game that I think is way more interesting. And again, the game I'm giving out as a free play today is a game that I would have sold. But we'll get into that. This next game, Guardians and Giants, wind out at 10 miles an hour, roughly. It's 57 degrees, roughly a game time. So here's what I've said about the Giants Stadium. It's the least affected by wind. So 10 miles an hour out is more like a couple of miles an hour out. I've talked about this. Wrigley's the most affected. The Giants, the least affected. What I like here is actually the fact that it's in the mid-50s. And with the colder temps, I think that's going to help two pitchers out that have scuffled a little bit, Logan Allen and Justin Verlander. Verlander's been fine. I feel like more guys are getting on base. He's got to get to a point where he starts reinventing himself because he's not going to get the Ks like he used to. He's not going to be that type of dominant pitcher. And with Logan Allen, he's a soft tossing lefty. And I've said this before, I like facing the right-handed lineup for the Giants. I don't know why that is. I prefer that than the left-handed lineup. And with this, I'm going to lean under here with this Giants game. The 57 degrees, and again, with the two pitchers, and I think people are misreading the wind here. I don't think it's something that really you should be checking out. Like, I'm not looking at the Giants Stadium unless I see winds over 20 miles an hour. And even then, it's still not as good as 10 miles an hour out at Wrigley. So just keep that in mind. You're going to hear me talk a lot about humidity, and that's what we're going to get to, excuse me, in one of these other games here. Let's get to the Twins and Reds, all right? So I would lean under, by the way, in that Guardians-Giants game. I think I said that. I just want to be clear. Twins and Reds, we get a little bit of rain, winds 10 miles an hour. It's left to right. I don't know if that'll change throughout the day. It's very humid there. You've heard me talk about the rain. When it's hot and it's raining, the humidity picks up and the ball tends to carry, and I love that for hitters. Or you see the fact that some of the pitchers that have to go in and change their jersey 4 or 5 times. I know Tommy Sagano for the Orioles does it. Carlos Rodon, I think he sweats in the shower. You got a lot of guys that get into it, but it does take its toll on the pitcher, more impact pitches. But let's look at this. We have Bailey Ober, Nick Lodolo. I would lean over in this game. Even with the wind going left to right, it's not much help. I mean, I think it can confuse hitters depending on how it carries. You can get some help, and it could start to blow out towards one of the areas. But these are two guys that, and Bailey Ober, he's been a very, very good strikeout pitcher. Just haven't seen a ton of that. He's putting a lot of guys on base. We actually talked about him last week, way more than I'm used to seeing. So he's a guy that, like, in certain aspects, when I find the right environment, I'm going to attack him. I think this is one of them. I like the Reds lineup against him. A lot of good lefties in that lineup. You have Ellie hitting from that side. This team, they can score runs in bunches. And the same thing with the Twins going up against Nick Lodolo. I think his numbers look fairly good. I do think he's due for some negative regression. I think he's been a little lucky, but he's been solid. I would lean over in the Twins in red. Lean over the total. I got to get used to saying it. It's creepy. All right, let me get to this free play. And this is a game that I would sell today on a normal slate. But I'm going to do this from time to time where I give out a free play, and I will tell you if it's a game I would normally bet. All the leans, like sometimes those are games I end up betting, but I like to get more information before I lock in my picks. And again, you guys can head on over, check out the premium picks, look at all the guys that have been doing just amazing work on that leaderboard in all the different categories. So it's fun because I like competing and looking at the board and seeing who's moved up, who had what from yesterday. But yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. And even in this industry, I always felt like in the gambling industry, it turned into, you can't listen to somebody else. You have to only listen to me. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's BS. Everybody kind of has their own, I don't want to say system, but the way they go about it. And some people are a little bit different. Some people feel like they have a feel for games. I like to look at the line movement. I like to look at the weather in football and baseball primarily. And I've said this, I gave out the a play in the WNBA, and I'm a big pace guy. So when we start betting the NBA, when we get back to the regular season and even college basketball, I love pace. You're going to see me bet a ton of high overs, the 160s, the 170s in college, the 240s in the NBA, when the pace is at the right spot. And sometimes it's getting ahead of that curve too. I was ahead of the curve with the Pacers 2 years ago, and we were hammering the overs there. And then it caught up, and then you're like, 248, like that's the right number. Do I want to bet this at 248? A lot of that has gone on. So let me get to this game. This game is Pittsburgh and Detroit. And I think a lot of people are going to be on the under already because it's Tarek Skubal and Andrew Heaney. Heaney is, talked about him last week, lefty. Numbers look good this year. You're not really, and I like lefties against the Tigers because it kind of takes Kerry Carpenter out of that lineup. And at some point, you got to let this guy hit against lefties. But takes him out of the lineup. He has a ton of pop. You do worry about some of the, and that gets Riley Green. It's a tougher matchup for him and some of their best players. But you do get the power righties and Spencer Torkelson. Torres is having a great year. So, but even with that being said, I don't think Haney's going to have an issue with the Tigers lineup. And the fact that the wind here, and this is what I love, it's 80 degrees. The wind's blowing in at about 13 miles an hour, light rain. And when you look at Tarek Skubal, I don't know what I need to tell you about him. The guy's the best left-handed pitcher in baseball right now. Maybe things will change over the next couple of years, but he's absolutely dominant. And there's no reason outside of just not having his best stuff that he shouldn't be able to shut down this lineup. I talked about him against the Orioles, and we were mentioning the fact his K prop was like, the algorithm had him at like 8.5 Ks against the Orioles. He didn't get any strikeouts, I think, the first 2 innings, and then he ended up striking out 7, which fell under that total. But like you could see, he's a power arm. You want to try to outlast Tarek Skubal, and I don't know we have enough patient hitters in the Pirates lineup to get that done. So I think the under is a great play. That's my free play today. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Check out the premium plays over at pickdawgz.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and I'll try to comment back to you guys if you're asking questions. Sometimes I get to it a little late, but I always come back to it. We'll see you tomorrow.